didn't know if it had come back or not. So I wasn't sure about that. Okay. So, all right. So what I was saying, there was this annoying thing that my dad used to do. I used to find it so annoying is that when something major would happen, like let's say I lost my wallet or something, and then I was looking all over the place for it and I couldn't find it. Maybe I ended up finding it. Maybe I didn't end up finding it. Who knows? But whatever the case may be, at the end, he would say, "Any lessons learned?" I'd be like, "Oh God, here he goes with this again. Any lessons learned?" Why do I have to talk about lessons that I learned when, like, what? Basically, just what's the purpose of me talking about what lesson I learned at this point? But now, in retrospect, in hindsight, I'm like, it was a really good positive spin and outlook to have on things that happen because um, what good is a hardship if you don't learn anything from it? So, what I was talking about in the last live that I wasn't sure that anyone was here for. Hi, Vicky. I wasn't certain that everyone was here for that live, so I'm gonna just repeat what I was saying a little bit. I had one of the hardest times of my life at the beginning of this year, and there's been two things that have ever happened to me at work that I never thought that I would bounce back from. The other one was years ago, 2011, and that was like, my mental health disorder, and how it just pronounced itself for the first time during that stretch at work. But no, you didn't miss anything, Vicky, because I was trying to make a live, and then I paused it for a minute, I came back to it, and I don't think it was working. So this is actually my first time saying this. So the other tough situation was the end of last year, going into the beginning of this year. I'm gonna say it in a little different way than I was saying it before. I'll just say that I had a hardship at work where my character was falsely questioned, and I no longer had that job. And then, I was struggling to just rediscover my sense of being, like my sense of self. I was like, who am I? Because I attached so much of who I am to the work that I was doing. And I'll never forget, I spoke to this guy that was probably the one that you would least expect to be the person who got me out of this rut. And what this guy said to me was, Mark, you are who you are no matter what place you clock into, no matter what lanyard you got on your neck, no matter what ID badge that you have on, you are still you. You are still you. A job is just what you do, not who you are. And I needed that. Bye to anyone who doesn't want to stay and listen to my story. I'm not going to block you because you didn't say anything disrespectful, but I'll also be frank and say I don't care whether you're here or not. Anyways, the person said, a job is what you do, it's not who you are. And those words, oh, I need to write that out. I need to make a graphic out of that and write that out because um, that's just a saying that has stuck with me. Because now, when I entered into my next job, which is what I'm doing right now, I could have had that same attachment of the job and my self worth put together, but um, I haven't, because since that time of what happened with the other place, I'm like, a job can pick you up and boost you up and tell you you're the greatest, and then drop you and tell you you're nothing out of nowhere. So I don't depend on the job for that. The work that I do at the job, I pride myself in that. I, I definitely take pride in what I do at the job, but I don't like the company. It could be Joe Schmo's Eatery. It could be looking at Regal Cinemas. It could be Ford, selling Ford trucks. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just something that I do in order to get the money to pay the bills. It doesn't define me in any kind of a way, which drives people crazy. Actually, it kind of drives the people above me crazy at times when they're telling me things with tremendous urgency, and I'm like, I don't really feel this. Like, this is not urgent to me. It probably would be a little more urgent to me if this was my own business. I will admit that, but it's not, and it pays me. It's not your business money, so therefore, there's no need for me to feel this urgency towards doing whatever it is. Okay, so that was one lesson that I learned from that. The other lesson is, don't allow people to mistake your kindness for weakness. Like, sometimes I will do things now, present day, at my current job, right? So I'll give you an example. There was something that happened in my present day job between myself and a coworker. Now, it wasn't a major thing in the grand scheme of things, in a sense of, it was something that I could have just walked away. I could just walk away. I could do absolutely nothing about it. They go their way, I go my way. It wasn't a big deal. However, it was like, in the short term, it's not a big deal, but in the long term, it could be a big deal. Now, without the specifics, this coworker who was a little bit off yelled some things at me in the middle of the hallway at work. Um, Things that you should not say, period, but the things were said and they were yelled, and there was clients and staff around, and they were yelling in my face. And I could have handled it in the way that Mark handled somebody yelling things like that in his face. I was telling somebody how at one of my first jobs in the mental health field, a client called me a derogatory term outside. He just like, "Yo, Mark." I said, "What?" "You're a blank blank," whatever he said. I know what he said, but I'm not saying it on here. I said, "Excuse me," because I was just instantly in this like fight mode, as if somebody in the street had told me the same thing. So I said, "Okay, I work here now, so I cannot react to this the way that I would like to." So I went to my boss. I told my boss, such and such said this. My boss said, "Well, he's not well." And I said, "Well, him not being well makes it okay for him to say that to me?" And she said, "What do you want him to do? Apologize? Is that going to make it better for you?" And I was like, isn't saying something like that breaking a rule? I don't care about an apology. Isn't that a rule that you're not allowed to say those kind of things because it's a derogatory term? She says to me, "Mark, I've been in this field for, let's say, 50 years at that time." She was just like, "I've been called every name in the book. I've been called this, this, and that, and this." And she was just like, I have a cold heart now. I walk in, my heart is in the freezer, and I'm prepared for anyone to say anything to me on any given day. Right? So I was just like, but I'm not. It's not that I'm sensitive to what he said. It's that he shouldn't have said it. So long story short, she told me that she doesn't think I would last in the field if that is the thing that takes me out the game, basically. So I don't know. Maybe she was right because since then, lots of people have said lots of different things, and I found ways to handle them without telling the staff and just kind of handling them on my own. And then, but anyways, to fast forward, what I was saying about this person who said this thing to me at this job, which was a staff member that is supposed to uphold the things that are in the company handbook. Like if I said what they said to me to another staff member, if I had said that to somebody in that building, I know I would be in trouble. So people told me that for various reasons that it wasn't worth it for me to make a report, but I have my own personal reasons as to why I made that report. You know, it's documented. Whether they give the person a slap on the wrist or not, it's still on paper. What was said is something that you gotta file on paper, and it means that I'm not gonna be tried in that way again. And if I am, it's gonna be a second offense and not a first offense. So the lesson that I learned from being the person who's just like, they're not well, let me just let it go, and you know, I just understand that this person has a different mental capacity than myself. So I'm just gonna let go and just go about my life and go about my day. What that does is everybody around, staff, clients, whoever, who heard that person say that thing to me and watch me walk away and do nothing about it is like Mark is a pushover. I can say anything to this guy, and he's gonna be the guy who just walks away and does nothing. Now you could be seen as the person who's like, oh, this guy's, this guy's gonna go to HR if he doesn't like something that you say. No, it's not that I'm. It's the only time that I have gone to HR at this since being at this company, and there's probably kind of crazier things that have happened that I could have gone to HR for. Um, but I chose this one for a reason. Like you're not gonna be coming yelling anything in my face, and I'm just gonna sit there and be like, ha, okay, that's okay for you to yell in my face like that. You know, uh, no, you gotta. And I'm somebody who has also, in some senses, in the last 5 years, taken one for the team, and I'll tell you what that means. When I say the team, honestly, I'm just referring to like people of color specifically. Hold on, uno momento. So here's what I mean by I've taken one for the team, right? Here's what I mean. The team, I'm saying, means people of color, right? So there was an early time in my career when I used to be the person who speaks up for everybody, right? Like, I was a person who we would all be sitting in the break room, let's say, and we would all be upset about some perceived injustice that has occurred within the company, and then we'd all be talking about what we're all going to do and say about it, and how we're all going to have this revolution and power to the people. And then when it comes time to speak, I'm speaking and everyone else is mute. And I was like, what is happening here? I thought we were all on the same page. Yeah, we were all on the same page 100%, but nobody else was willing to risk anything. You got to be willing to put something on the line for something that you believe in. And I was the only one willing to do that. So I said, you know what? I'm for these people because they're just willing to let me hang myself, metaphorically. YouTube, metaphorically hang myself. Basically, what I'm saying by that is they want the change that I am speaking up for, but they don't want to be known as a voice of a person who is stepping out of line or out of rank and telling people, I don't like this and I want this thing to change, right? So I don't do that anymore. I don't do that. But when an opportunity presents itself where I can kill two birds with one stone, in other words, it's something that happens to benefit everybody else, but I didn't go out of my way to make sure that it benefited everyone else, but I'm aware. That might not make sense, but let's connect it back to this person that I'm talking about. This person said some out of pocket things to me as a black person. And that same person has said some out of pocket things to other people of color in that same environment. And those people spoke to their supervisor, not put in an HR report, but just spoke to their direct supervisor and said, such and such said this and this to me or about me or whatever. The supervisor would just sit that person down. Hey, you can't do that. That's culturally insensitive or whatever. And then the conversation would be the punishment. In other words, if nothing is in writing, it's as if nothing ever happened. So, like, when it got to me, when that person got the balls to do that to me, I was like, this one's for the culture, man. This one is for the culture. They treated me, my colleagues treated me like a hero for doing that. And I was like, it was the perfect day in my life for the stars to align, for you to get in my face and do that, because I am not as other people. I do not tolerate BS like that. Y'all might think I do based on my YouTube presence, but don't let my YouTube presence fool you. I'm not like that in person. I am not like that in person. No way. No way, Jose. Yeah, I got labeled as a troublemaker at a couple of jobs. This job, they don't quite know me yet, and I try my best to only exercise my power when necessary. And I think that I have found a really excellent balance. I don't know, maybe other people at work might perceive it differently, but the way that I perceive it is that I found an excellent balance of standing up for things I believe in and sitting back and being like, this particular thing is not worth the fight. Because that is a skill as well. Like you can fight for everything. There's people there that are on extreme in the job, and at anybody's job. There's people that are like extremely overly cautious. Even if something wrong is being done, like, hey, I need this paycheck. What can I do? I need this paycheck, man. I have to take whatever abuse that I'm getting, because if I don't, I'm not going to get my money. And then there's the other side that's like the fight the power side. And I don't just mean like people of color in that case. I mean like just people in general that are just like fight the power, fight the man, fight, 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 fight. And those people are like the boy who cried wolf, because they talk so much trash. They talk so much trash that when something is legitimate, nobody wants to listen to them. So I have found a really good balance, because I speak up sometimes, but I do so selectively, and because I do so selectively, and people know that I'm not really going to express a problem unless I feel like it is a big and worthy cause. When I say things, people listen. That's a long-winded way of what I was trying to say. When Mark says things, people listen. That's something that I am proud about. My voice carries weight, and I know it. And most of the time, I use that for good. Occasionally, I use that for pettiness, but everybody has a petty side. My petty side is wild, though. It's just like people don't realize that, because when sometimes I'll do something and someone will say, Mark, that's so petty. Like, why would you do that? It's because 95% of the time, I'm not gonna be petty. I'm just gonna let it go. Sometimes you get me the right time and the right mood, things are gonna be different. And the worker that's talking crap behind the scenes, you know what? Not necessarily. Oh, yes. Yes, you're so right. I read that and I was thinking something else, but I reread it. You're right. The one that says everything behind the scenes and lets you be the mouthpiece is what you're saying. Absolutely. I hate those type of people. Drive me nuts. That song is gonna ding me. But that's okay. The song is gonna ding me. I'm gonna have to get off here in like 2 seconds just to scan my Amazon account, and then I'll be right back on. BRB. Alright, we're back. Yeah, I can't stand that type of... Alright, we're back. Yeah, I can't stand that type of person, Chocolate, who will be right there with you, talking with you. Oh, F this person, that person, like, his boss is unfair, and they do all this BS, blah, blah, blah. But then when it comes time to have the actual... Yeah. I like that. Community parenting. I wasn't going to say anything, but I was at the double door, the automatic double door, and then this kid was putting his hand in the crack of the door, and I'm just looking at him, and I'm just looking at his mom, letting him roam freely.
which was not a thing when I was a kid, roaming freely in the grocery store while my mom did the shopping. But anyways, somebody told her, they were like, yo, your kid is sticking his hand in the door, like, come get your kid, come get your child. Anyways, that's just random stuff that happens while I'm out. Yeah, so I'm not the one who is going to stick my neck out on the line on behalf of, 6-7 disgruntled coworkers. But if the stars align that there's something that I can do that can benefit my cohorts as a whole, and does not put me in the line of fire for doing so, like this thing that happened to me was a layup. Quite frankly, what a layup means, if you don't watch basketball, the layup is statistically the easiest shot with the highest efficiency in the game of basketball, where you're right by the basket and you just
goes through the hoop. That's a layup. So people use the term layup when something happens to you in life where you're like, wow, this is very easy. So it's like what that means in that case is I didn't have to go looking for the opportunity to get this person in trouble, because that person came and looked for me and showed up and was like, knock, knock, and said the things that they said publicly in front of people with witnesses. And from there, the rest is history. They don't talk to me or nobody like that anymore. And if the day ever comes where they decide to get froggy and start talking spicy again, uh, they will live to regret that day. It is written. It is written in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Thou shalt not push Mark's buttons, because Mark clappeth back with a vengeance. The lesson is people will move the goalposts. People will do more when you let them do more. When somebody does something to you, like if somebody gives you like a little nudge, right? And then you just stand there and let them nudge you. All right, the nudge doesn't matter at that point in time. But then they remember that they were able to nudge you the first time. Then the next time, they might give you like a forearm shiver that was a little stronger than the nudge. All right, no harm, no foul. I didn't break anything. I didn't hurt anything. Next thing you know, they push you with one arm. Then they push you with both arms. Then they tackle you, and you're like, how come this person just tackled me out of nowhere? They did not tackle you out of nowhere. They tested your boundaries. They tested what you are going to be willing to put up with in multiple different ways. And you showed them every time that I can do anything that I want. I can have my way with this person. And then it got to the point where now they did something huge. And when you think, why did it happen? You can point back to several different things as to why that thing happened. So that's the lesson that I have learned is sometimes the actions you take is not based on the consequence. I'm trying to think of how to phrase this the best. The actions you take are not based on the consequences of actions taken against you. Like, for an example, the person who gives me the nudge, like they nudge me with their elbow for no reason. Like, there's no reason to do it, and they just do it. If my reaction is based on whether that nudge hurt me or not, then I'm gonna let a lot of things go. But if my reaction is based on like, why did you do that? What was the reason for you to do that? If there was no reason for you to do that and you just did it, then my reaction is, don't nudge me, because nudging me, touching me is not okay. And if I'm going off of that basis, that prevents a lot of people from now thinking that I can escalate this from A to B, B to C, C to Z. Sometimes you just have to let people know. That's pretty much it. And I've gotten so much better at that over the years. Like, you're not gonna do that to me. Um, and especially in those kind of settings. Outside of there, things are a little bit different. People handle things a little bit different outside. But people get really comfortable sometimes in these work settings thinking that they can do anything because the power of you not wanting to get fired and stay at the job, you know, um, they think that that's going to prevent you from doing anything, but you got to learn. You got to learn how to go to the correct channels, and you got to know what to say, how to phrase things. I've gotten so good at all of that. People don't really want to mess with me in those kind of platforms anymore. They still try, but they never win. But anyways, that's that. Please make sure like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell to get notified of when I drop some more great content. Thank you all and have an amazing day.